Hello, my friends. I just want to share something that came to me to look at, and then I immediately recognized and understood what it was talking about. And God is lighting up things right now as far as to the children of God and what is happening in the world, and it's becoming easier and easier to see things. It's still not easy to see things, but it's easier than it was. And I have spoken much on Donald Trump this last week because this is what the Lord has had me focus on, to figure out exactly who he is like. If you look at the golden king that Daniel saw from King Nebuchadnezzar in his dream, and you saw that the king at the very end was struck by a stone that was not from this earth, it was stone from heaven that destroyed the whole golden king. That is what I see America like. So you have this great empire that was been built off of all of these other great empires. And right down at the feet, half made of clay and half made of iron, you have the foot that is destroyed, but not by earth. So that means that is God destroying that kingdom. It's not the world that's going to destroy that kingdom. And if you go through all of the rulers, you look at all of the rulers, look at what Donald Trump looks the most like. And we know that as soon as the stone strikes the foot, the statue is destroyed, and you have a king that was the king of the earth, put into position by God, that then becomes the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. In other words, the last king, the last one that God appoints, is the one who will be there last before Jesus comes. So in other words, he ushers him in. So who is that like? Well, that's like John the Baptist, isn't it? And John the Baptist ushered in Jesus Christ. Take a look at something that Donald Trump just spoke of. He says, just relax. Donald Trump urges shoppers to stop buying out grocery stores. What does this look like? What should we do then? The crowd asked. John answered, anyone who has 2 shirts should share with the one who has none, and anyone who has food should do the same. Even tax collectors came to be baptized. Teacher, they asked, what should we do? Don't collect any more than you are required to, he told them. Then some of the soldiers asked him, and what should we do? He replied, don't extort money and don't accuse people falsely. Be content with your pay. The same message that Donald Trump just spoke to the people of the United States about just take what you need. It's the same message of common sense. Keep calm. Do things exactly as you should to others. Others will do that to you, and everybody will exist peacefully without destroying the systems that are already set up. John the Baptist spoke all about common sense. Donald Trump also speaks the same way about common sense. And you know that John the Baptist, he came, in the wilderness. It had a hair of camel's hair and honey. And John the Baptist was this wild man, so to speak. Donald Trump comes opposite of that. He comes dressed as the golden king, just like Daniel saw. He comes dressed as that, the king made of gold, who has over him all of the other empires that fell before him, and he's the last one that is here before the kingdom is come of God, which is exactly what John the Baptist did, and it's exactly what I think Donald Trump is doing based off of what God is showing me of him. He's saying you need to pay attention to the things that he does and the things that he says, and you will see who he is. You will see who he is like. And John the Baptist, nobody knew who he was, really. John the Baptist didn't know who he himself was, really. It's all the same thing as Donald Trump. Donald Trump comes differently because he comes as a king. John the Baptist didn't come as the king, he came as the servant. But Donald Trump is coming as the king, and what comes after him is the kingdom of heaven set on earth. And it all goes back to the 7.5-year reign, I believe, of Donald Trump and how he will go out. I believe that God has appointed him to speak common sense, to get the people of the world on his side. And look at how fiercely everybody opposes him. They all oppose him just like the Pharisees opposed John the Baptist. They all come against him, all of the Pharisees. The Pharisees of the religions, the Pharisees of the world, everybody comes against him, which does not speak common sense. Donald Trump is speaking common sense to a world. He's common sense policies to nations, and the world is rejecting him, the same as it did for John the Baptist. However, there is also the other half that comes to him to listen to him speak. He draws crowds in the 20, 30,000 range. People come all over to listen to him speak. You have the same exact thing happening with Donald Trump and his rallies. The same exact things, just in a way that you have to have the eyes to see it. So I hope that, if anything, what my word speaks to you of now is it brings you to think and to question everything that you've seen on this man. Bring into question all of what you've seen good, all of what you've seen bad, all of what you've seen the world do to him, and all of what you've seen the world haven't do to him. And you will see that everything lines up with Donald Trump being just like John the Baptist before Jesus took over his ministry. The same thing is the king that Daniel saw, Nebuchadnezzar, in his dream. The same as it is a golden king coming at the end of ages. It's not someone out in the wilderness like John the Baptist at the end. It's a king at the end which falls. And his dominion, his reign, is then given over to the King of Kings. So we would expect John the Baptist to come like a king now. We shouldn't expect him to come as somebody out in the wilderness. He already came like that. I believe that same spirit God has given him. If you ever find yourself listening to the things that he says and what he does, and you say, yeah, that just makes common sense, you're probably on the side of God with that, because that's what he's given him to be. He's given the world, a man of the world, to follow into righteousness, and the world rejects him. I believe you will see Donald Trump be reelected in 2020. It will be an outpouring of reelection. And then for the next 3.5 years, they will figure out a way to kill him. And then they will. And that is when the kingdom of heaven is set up on earth after he is killed. If you look at all of the scriptures and you look at all of the world and you have the eyes to see, you will see what I speak here makes sense, because it does. It lines up scripturally with exactly what you would expect the end to look like. The world doesn't want to follow God, so God gives them a man of the world who they can follow into righteousness. And what happens? For a while they do follow him. He draws large crowds. They all come from all over the place to ask him questions. Well, what should we do? What is this? What is that? And all this man does is speak common sense to them. Well, don't take more than you need. Let's keep our nation safe by closing the borders or shutting off terrorists. Let's do things the way that it worked for America. Let's get away from everything, away from Jesus Christ that didn't work and has caused all of these problems in the country. Let's do things according to how our ancestors did things and live and practice common sense ruling over the world. It's the same thing that Donald Trump is doing. John the Baptist and Donald Trump, as far as an individual spirit, an individual person, are the only two figures that line up to me in the entire world. Everything else is missing something. It's missing a piece of what John the Baptist would look like now. Donald Trump is the only one that fits every single one of those. I believe you will see all of this play out exactly as the scriptures have showed it, just with new eyes to see it. And if you take a look, really dive into Donald Trump. Don't dive into what the media says about him. Don't dive into what the Democrats or the Republicans say about him. But look for yourself with what he says. You will see that he is doing the things that he says he would do. He is fulfilling what he has told the people he would, and he's fighting everybody to do it because they don't want to do these things. just like the Pharisees fought John the Baptist. A world that doesn't want common sense, it wants authority to rule over the people, rejected John the Baptist, just like the church did, or not the church at that time, just like the Jews did not accept John the Baptist at that time, but the people did. The ruling parties didn't accept John the Baptist. The people believed he was a prophet. It's the same thing for Donald Trump. The ruling parties cannot stand him, but the people believe he is good, and he's trying to lead them into better water, so to speak, greener fields. And it's by doing nothing other than things that work in the world, by common sense. It's taken me a very long time back and forth with Donald Trump to see this, but it is because God has worked it out with me over the course of these years, because you have to work it out if you're a child of God. You can't just believe anything. You have to look in the scriptures and find the man that meets the word, and once you find the man that meets the word, then you know you have it. And that's what God has worked out with me for these 4 years, really, following everything that Donald Trump has done, and what the media does to him, and what the governments do to him, and what the world does to him, and how he reacts to all of it. He's not a man of God. He's not perfect. But he is a man of the world that knows how to run the world, which is why he is given that common sense spirit, like John the Baptist, in the end times. And I think his end has to come exactly the same way. Just like Revelation shows this end. It has to come in exactly the same way. And this is what we're going to see. I don't know when our departure actually is. I don't know when the children of God are leaving. I truly don't. I know they're going to see things, and I know eventually God is going to take them no matter what happens in the world, but I don't know exactly when we leave. It's not really written in the Word. It's too much. God needs to just do it. It's not really written for us to understand. What's written for us to understand is the events and the moments that play out in the times of the end. There's destruction coming to Sodom and Gomorrah. There's a revival of the church, but there's also the destruction and desolation of the different church, the harlot church. So all of these things, it's very complicated in the times of the end. But I believe of all peoples, of all things, I think Donald Trump matches everything that he should, of coming just like John the Baptist, not as a man of God, as a messenger of God, as a prophet of God, but as a king of God, which God gives the world to rule over the world righteously so that the people follow him and they turn into righteousness before the ushering in of the Messiah comes. Jesus is coming in Donald Trump's term. There is no doubt to me about it. It's only a question of when. And it's coming soon, my friends. Everything is lining up exactly as God had said it would line up for those who have the eyes to see. And I see this. Examine for yourself everything of Donald Trump. And I believe that you will also see the same thing. God bless.